Rick up here, and we'll get the show started. I'm anxious. Oh, sorry, I didn't have the mic. Sorry about that. We're still getting our feet wet after being down for a few days. Going to get Rick up here. Rick Jewers. He's been traveling all over the place, creating the magic, following the magic. That's all one and the same. Let's see now. Welcome, everybody. If these shows resonate with you, please share so we can stay above these algorithms. And thank you for your continued love and support and contribution so we can keep on doing this and keep trying to expand every day. Here he comes. What's happening, brother?
Always lots with this ascension, that's for sure.
What's going on the front line of the apocalypse?
Well, there's no apocalypse for us. That was avoided in 2012 linear time. So
right on.
Keep going forward through all these changes.
You know, you've been traveling a lot. For those of you haven't been following Rick, he's left Canada. He's gone England, all over Europe, the Middle East, Israel. Now you're over in Spain.
Yeah.
You know, pretty soon we're going to have to give you one of those vehicles like they had in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang that floats on the sea and flies in the air and drives on the roads.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to have, Todd. It would. Jeez, yeah, for getting around.
You know, I was just able to start scheduling yesterday. We were blessed to be land in a place where we can broadcast every day for the next 50 days. And so I started making a list. We've got a list upon list upon list, and the reason I hit you up right away was because I've noticed over the last 10 or 14 days that you've been putting out some really I don't know, some intel that has a lot of clarity. It resonates. I align with it. You know, kind of the frequency in between the words or behind the words. And I've also noticed that quite a few other people have had an uptick in the clarity and the resonance of what they're putting out. It all seems to be happening at the same time. What's, you know, and I guess we could, you know, it's 13 days into February. So, I mean, what's, and I know you've been moving pretty fast. I think 13 days ago, you were probably still in Israel. But
maybe
no,
I've been here for quite a while. I don't count.
It seems like it, right? But yeah, what's been happening? I mean, you've been picking up a lot of stuff. I want to talk about a little bit about what you've been writing about, but what's been happening for you?
Yeah, well, December 28th was very important with this ascension. It changed so many things. One thing, let's just say the constellation of Orion, which is actually a toroidal field, a portal to take everything into 5D, or you can say it sets the 5D in this reality without getting you know, too far into that. As a result of what occurred, there was a huge upward shift, and with that upward shift comes enhancement in the consciousness, enhancement in the overall collective telepathy, and all other gifts. So great changes occurred as a result of that. And, we keep constantly going upwards. And the more we go upwards in the outside world, the matrix, the more tension you see.
Mm.
So it's great, we're all doing it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too to be watching people like you doing what we're doing. Lawrence Wendell. I mean, Natasha Weeks and her husband and her baby boy. Just going with it, and in faith and in trust, and watching things materialize. I think I don't really have to ask you, but I would assume that everything for you is happening in the moment as you anchor presence in the present moment, that things are unfolding for you. And I want to say, no more than a few days out at best.
Well, what occurs presently, I've been in a waiting mode. I'm waiting for divine alignment. And so I've been in Barcelona for about 3 weeks. I've been in a waiting mode since, December 30th or what have you. So I had a rest period from the divine mission for, about a month. And since then, I'm still waiting for something to align here, but that's
Yeah.
coming very close. I need to go to Egypt, is the next one, and tentatively Nepal, Tibet, and Australia after that. So
Wow.
we'll see what occurs. That is the
Wow.
tentative divine plan that I'm given at this time. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you a chitty chitty bang bang vehicle if you're going all the way to either that or a spaceship.
Well,
You mentioned, and I'm not big on the stars, but I don't mean to take any no disrespect. I just mean I don't really know that much about them. But what I do know is that at least for the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, the the Orion has been more and more prominent. Like even walking around last night, I look straight up and there's Orion's belt, and then above that, is above the constellation of Orion is a Betelgeuse, and above that Aldebaran, and then directly across from that is Pleiades. I don't know. It seems like that frequency speaks to me, almost like that's our history, like that's the trail that we just left behind or something. Now you're saying that Orion, it's an energetic portal that's pulling us up. Is that what you were getting at?
we could say this, it's a dimensional portal. Right now, it's influencing everything that occurs there because it is the doorway to the fifth dimension for
Mm,
those ascending. So it does play a very important role with this. Now, anyone that has their sight to see the Merkaba ships when looking at what is known as the constellation of Orion, you will see these at high periods very active. What you would call the stars are actually Merkaba ships. And for those of you who can see them, they will be flashing when we're in higher vibratory timelines or higher vibration. You will see them flashing the colors of the seven sacred rays.
mm,
So, for any of your viewers uh, that haven't seen that yet, your eyes will be adjusted. The cones and the rods in the human eye is one thing that is part of the ascension symptoms, where the eyes are adjusted so that you're able to, let's say, in the least, peer in other dimensions. But part of
mm,
that process enables ones, while they're here in the human vessel, to visually see the colors and also to see into the other dimensions slightly. And one of the ways is seeing the actual Merkaba ships that are present here all the time now. And it's and they're not only in the Orion's belt, uh, they are positioned, all around Gaia in a certain position. However, they are
mm,
not constant. They do move all the time. And when you
mm,
begin to interact with them when you connect straightly with them. You have quite an experience with them. For example, some of the footage I share from others that can see them, you will see them take uh, take shapes of, let's say, the Merkaba. They'll take faces. They'll take shapes of animals, and it's a very cool and fun experience with them. So it depends on the individual. When they're ready, when their eyesight is ready to see the colors, then they can be able to interact with these Merkaba ships, and it gets very fun. And these ships as well, they don't only stay there, let's say, in location. They can be a pinpoint up here, and they can project right down towards the being in a very huge, they can increase their size with a beam to try to keep it simple. And it's, yeah, so, Victoria Lynn, I cannot pronounce her last
Lilyquist.
name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lilyquist.
yeah, she does amazing footage with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that other lady does too. I can't remember her name. Um, and I can't say that I really haven't looked to the stars for any length of time, in terms of trying to spot a starship or, any universal family craft. But what I will say is in the last 2 weeks, there seems to be an integration and a convergence of, all the kingdoms, if you will. I mean, we had an incredible dolphin encounter, 10 days ago or so. We had an encounter, which is kind of normal, with a hawk with us, with me. But it was a different because it just sat, like 15 feet from us the entire time we were having a conversation. But the other day, and this might be related to what you're talking about with the eyes. The other day, when I arrived to this location, where we're going to be able to broadcast. It's a 2 minute walk to the beach. So, uh, you know, I walked over there, and the sun looked different. It has I don't know what the color difference is, more like a goldish white, maybe. I don't really know. But what I noticed was, and it was on the horizon over the ocean, and I looked straight into it. And what I noticed immediately was that I didn't squint at all. And it was super bright where you couldn't even see the actual circle of the sun. That's how bright it was. But once I focused on it for a little bit, then the sun itself, came into full view, and then just started emanating these colors. And the colors were, I would have to say, like off planet colors. They were shades of pink or purple or green or blue, but in orange, but they were not colors I'd really seen with these eyes. And it was kind of strange because it's a little bit dimensional, interdimensional, whatever you want to call it. But there was cascading, mostly cascading rose colored pink coming out, rose gold color coming out. It was, kind of communicating and such. But the thing that really struck me, and I remembered while you were talking, to the right of it, I saw basically like a portal open, and I stood there for 30 or 40 minutes watching it, thinking it was some kind of anomaly. But within that portal, almost like a swirl, uh, whether it be clouds or I don't know what it was, because it had so much color in it. And that's my point. There were all these colors similar to like a rainbow type of arrangement, but it
Mhm.
was all over that space, which is, roughly like a oval or a circle. And I was just amazed. And I thought to myself, this is going to be, like the pictures that you put up of the horizon and the sky and other people do. These colors are actually going to come into full contact and recognition with the collective, and that won't be deniable.
Well, indeed, yeah, I love, the most prevalent pink we're seeing here, representing the love energy. And, what I've been putting out, there's reports like, all over Gaia where this is appearing, the pink skies, the pink clouds. And if anyone, looks back, let's say 10, 20 years ago, that was, not the norm. If you saw
No.
a pink sunset, you might have seen it maybe once or twice in your life. Now it's an everyday thing, but it's also representative for us of the energy as well and the love vibration. And it is all as a result of that and the amazing work all of the light workers and all of us are doing as co-creators and coming back into that powerful love space. Because again, the love energy is the strongest energy in the universe. It is the strongest creational energy as well.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you and other people from time to time who are pulling in consistent intel over the last few years will speak of the role and the impact that's evolving, like everything in this ascension is, of the divine unions. You wrote a couple of posts citing the significance, the role, the function of the divine unions, and how, at least if I can remember correctly, how important it is, but also how much it's expanding. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, right at this time, one's, let's say, partners of any divine unions, they are enhanced and they are ready energetically to come together. Most of the Kundalini is activated, the light body process is up to sufficient degrees, the sensitivities as being an empath, the rays in the consciousness, the vortice of each individual that spirals upward, which is their creational energy at this time. And since December 28th, again, when the Orion portal, or whatever you wish to call it, was activated, then that was the signal, the time for the divine unions as well. So they are very important, and um, perhaps a few of the viewers know, but perhaps not all, is that, let's say, in the twin flame unions, what was known and delivered to the surface, let's say several years ago, is that there were 12 original, 13 actually, but I'm just uncertain how they put it out there. There were 13 original twin flame pairs that were directly broke off from source for a certain purpose in this lower dimension. And they were broke off as twin flame pairs, male and equal female. And during this ascension, as we kept going up, when the time is right, they come together in complete, perfect harmony. And what they do as a result, when they come together, they create a very powerful creational energy without getting into it too deep. The love that they create changes all of reality, to keep it simple, for your viewers. And we are in this time now. So this is one of the important reasons why and there are 12 of these original twin flame pairs. They are incarnated here upon the surface in the physical avatars. So these 12, it's very important that they come together at this time and practice more of what we could call their sacred divine marriage, get familiar with their creational abilities and so much more. And again, it's the mother in these lower dimensions. It is the mother father aspects of God that does the creation. It's not just masculine, it's both aspects of creator. And that is why, in this dimension, we have genders, we have the masculine and the feminine. And in the special time of 5D, all creation and what we're doing here for humanity, it requires 50-50 from the masculine and the feminine. This also wipes out the last couple thousand years of the dense patriarch rule and the suppression of the feminine. So We are integrating the perfect harmonious 5D.
I arrived here on Tuesday um, to this place to broadcast, parked the RV out, and that night I ended up spending 2 hours on the couch. Now this place was set up as a retreat by several women and very high vibrational women, and and so there was a very strong feminine presence that came in and started to download me, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't get off the couch. The information that came in seemed to be um, I don't want to say the end of the road, but it seemed to be like a final piece in order to comprehend and understand what happened to the feminine energy. And I was shown very clearly the level of oppression and even beyond constriction, really imprisonment, basically, um, of their journey, of that journey, the journey of the feminine frequency in all of us. And so what I understood from that was part of the intel regarded Soulogy, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because of what you said about the 50-50. It has to be 50-50. And that seems to be what we're stepping into now. And part of the intel that I got was in regard to Soulogy, that the platform, has many purposes, but the primary purpose is to actually embody and materialize and be an example of what in the physical of what is required or what has been created energetically by all of us, which is to create a 50-50 atmosphere, which is to support the final rise of the feminine energy. And that was a big download. That was a big download, not just because I couldn't walk for 2 hours, but because the information seemed to be telling me that something is very imminent, maybe mass disclosure, I don't know, but something is very imminent, and to understand to the degree that I was told, and others would too, would be necessary for us to illuminate and hold the light at as high a level as possible in respect to what's apparently about to go down. I'm not saying that's gospel. That's just what I received. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally concur with that, and that's what's occurring at this time. Yeah, for what's about to go down with what you're saying with the sealed indictments. This is a huge part of this ascension, and the revealing, the revelations of exposing all of the lies to the masses, and with this, it is going to generate uh, a substantial amount of fear energy with it. And yes, as you say, everyone that is advanced in their divinity are powered up, ready for this to transmute this. It could be a large amount of fear energy from the masses, and fear is anger, worry, disgust, all of that is fear energy. And so the ones that know what's going on, that are, been up to date on it, like with Q, and, know the higher truth, well, all
Yeah.
of us are prepared energetically to begin transmuting. And yes, and presently we are still just waiting um, for a couple things to come into place with us in regards of divine timing, when all of us divine ones are in place, and then it begins. Is what I'm given. And yes, Todd, we're right there now at any moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly feels like it. And of course, the telepathy, the multi-dimensional uh, interactions between two or more people are coming into play more. The things that you're talking about, I can attest to with Morgan and I. Some of the stuff that you referred to, the creative element of two people coming together, which I would only assume is a frequency that will be expanded beyond the divine unions. That's just maybe a way to anchor it, but these things are happening. You know, these things are happening. People are having incredible experiences all around the world. I have a daughter who was visited by three light beings just less than a week ago that communicated with her and appeared in her bedroom with her newborn, her 3 month old, my
Oh,
grandkid.
beautiful. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful.
And, you know, and the interesting thing was when we talked about it, because she's like one of those young people, you know, all her whole life that just is tuned in at some level that doesn't have to be explained. But you know, and she said to me, "What do you think? Why do you think they came? What's going on?" I said, "I think they came for this kid, or because of this kid, or that he had something to do with it." And she said, "You know, I thought the same thing." So these kids are bringing in higher frequencies, which is also bringing operating as a bridge for star family to come in uh, that are at a higher frequency that maybe some of us are not because we went through all the programming and all that stuff and we still have to work on raising our frequency. But yeah, that's another spin on it. And there seems to be more and more children and young people having more and more of an impact on our journey.
Indeed, yes. And these children are indeed so important. The crystalline children being born every day. And let's say over the last 10 years, maybe a little bit less than that. And indeed, um, just as you were speaking about your daughter, I just reflected back to a gentleman I had met in Canada, and his young son was visited when he was young by a red orb right above the crib, and again, it's a light being, but it's also there. It let the mom know that this child is special, that
Yeah.
this child is here for a very important reason, that the child is protected, and just by putting that imprint in the parents' minds, they pay attention and they know, and it changes everything that they do as well. So yes, these children are very important. Without we all know this, and more is also being revealed as we go higher and higher up the ascension ladder of the reasons why. But these children are is the generation here to secure the timelines after some of us leave, and to continue on. This is the generation for humanity that evolves them beyond anything yet. And I like to say that takes humanity out of savagery and into civilization, because
Right. Well,
it's
they're not
absolutely.
having anything to do with it, you know. I mean, Natasha and Ryan Weeks we're gonna connect with them this coming week. You know, they're traveling in a truck with a camper. Their child Ocean is about 2.5, I think, years old, 2.5, 3. And she talks about how when she was pregnant, they started communicating and on to when he was born, and that how he basically told her, I'm not going to nursery school. I'm not going to, institutional educational, uh, schools and stuff. This is what we're going to do. And, later they sell everything and they put the camper trailer together, truck, and they're driving around doing what you're doing and doing what we're doing at the direction of this 2.5 year old
Oh,
crystal
beautiful.
child. So this is what I'm saying. It seems like, at least in my work, that there's more and more direct evidence of the influence that these children are bringing in, and I'm talking 1 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old. I mean, this is going to really change things, rapidly.
Hmm. Yeah, totally agree. It is, and it's yes, totally agree on that.
Just had something fall over here. I guess that statement was a
Well,
hell
I had
yeah or
stuff
something.
moving here earlier. Like,
Well,
yes.
as long as this is the information we need to get out here. But sometimes before a show starts, I'll get like a certain feeling, and I can't remember if I've had them with you. We've done so many shows, and we always do them very quickly. But this time, I got this feeling like in my solar and in my heart, my higher heart, and it started rumbling. I thought, well, that's Rick. I can feel our energy, you know. But this is the kind of thing that's happening. This is what's
Oh,
happening.
okay. Well, Todd, what I wish to share with you, and this is, right, very important as well. About a couple hours ago, I was speaking with Sharon. She's back in New York, and she had a huge shift there. But just as she was having it, I could feel her energy raising up within me as well, right up to the higher heart where it had
Mhm.
come up. And very quickly, that changed the timeline too. So,
Yeah,
this happened with you at the around the same time. Yeah, we were powered up.
yeah,
It has dropped a little bit since then, but there was an extreme heightening in power. And what I will say with Sharon, with the energy that come through that message, it was the most powerful signature I've ever seen from her yet.
yeah,
So it was very significant, and yeah, indeed. So we're
yeah,
we're being the show, I guess,
yeah,
perhaps the show is beginning, right?
yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I think's happening. You know, and it's funny you say that. And I mentioned this on a previous show this morning, but Morgan left on Tuesday, and so Tuesday is the day I came over here and parked the RV, started working again, and so Monday night we went to dinner. We had to get up early to go to the airport, and we always clasp our hands together, you know, side by side when we go to bed. But that night, she, put her hand on top of mine, but then she grabbed it almost like a handshake and squeezed it. And as a human, I could feel her intention and her love and so on. But the crazy thing was, I got over here. I had that episode with the mother goddess, what I can only describe as the mother goddess energy, and but what started it all was I felt her hand. I felt a hand. I mean, I can't prove it, but I know it was her. I know it was her. I felt this hand. I'm just sitting there minding my own business. I felt this hand clasp mine and then grip it and turn it just like she'd done the night before. And then everything started, you know, which
Mhm.
included, by the way, me seeing very distinctly a fairy later that night in the backyard that I stared at for like 5 or 6 minutes. I'm like, what is that? It wasn't a firefly. And then I saw, as I've seen in some pictures on social media, I saw the shape. I saw everything. So it's all opening up. All dimensions
Oh,
are opening up.
indeed, perfect. And I know you'll love this, what I'm about to say about the dragon.
Mm,
So I believe it was 2 days ago. I received. Well, what happened first? I got up and I was moving around, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see I was probably this big around, like the very blue, azure blue. Uh, let's say plasma. It wasn't
mm,
all complete. It was irregular, and so I'd seen it twice, and I'd seen it like not right out of the peripheral, but like just off onto the side to identify it. I got a good look at it
mm,
twice, and it was huge, and I felt it was dragon. And so what was funny about it, I come on, check my messages online afterwards, and a divine comrade, she had sent me an article someone put out about the blue dragon, which
mm.
was, a very, it is valid, and this is what was occurring at this time. And, quickly again, this is an azure dragon. This is, there used to be four azure celestial dragons, and now
Mm.
there is five. So it was very interesting for the appearance. I had no communication with it, just observed, but it was there, and it did coincide with what one had put out. They did a write up about the blue dragon. I just don't recall what was in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and also what was funny too, I took my pen here like about an hour later, and I wrote. I just went to move my pen to write down about dragon, and there was a small blue orb from the dragon appeared right here by the pen
Yeah.
for a couple seconds. So yeah, it was good.
You
So I
know,
need to. I'll share that in a post sometime
yeah,
here in the very near future.
yeah,
Yeah.
you should. You should. Yeah, I get went to sleep for the second night without Morgan in a long, long time. And last night. And so I went in the room and I shut the door and it's pretty dark. And the energy was so present that I actually had to get up and leave the room
Oh yeah.
because and I haven't had that happen. I was like, holy crap, like I wasn't scared, but I wasn't like, exactly relaxed about it. It was just so busy, It was, and it wasn't a bad thing, but
Okay.
that's that's probably, I guess, a high class problem, but it's not really a problem. But anyway, another thing I was going to ask you about too is, you talked about waiting on guidance, and so many people are being asked to get up and go, with less and less fear, therefore more and more fearlessness. Um, when you get your guidance and you relocate to the next place, what typically happens? Are you told to do certain things, or is it more an experience of just being there and being you?
No, what occurs, and I'll say this publicly again, I am an overseer of this ascension, and my divine mission here is to oversee, yeah, all of the operations. Now, let's say I know everything what must occur. However, it's blocked from the humanoid consciousness and
Yeah.
it's only incrementally delivered for what I need to do. So right here, I function as a humanoid, and I receive the information from the etheric realm what I need to.
Yeah.
So they keep it very simple, and let's say when I need to go somewheres, I am told where to go, and I just don't have an expectation on what I do there, and I just go and I meet with who I am supposed to meet with, and so yeah, it's kept simple that I just follow the guidance with it, and also I play what you can say as well, a dual role, because I'm here with a consciousness that is connected to the collective, this current realm or this current layer. Then I'm also, like all of us, are part, of the higher etheric realm. And so again, it's very important, yes, for everyone to follow what they're receiving at this time, because everyone is being, for the most part, are being positioned in position for what's coming here. And it is important. Some will stay where they're at, and some others will be relocated. So for I need to go to Egypt. Uh, Egypt is certain. Nepal, Himalayas, that is tentative, and Australia is tentative, but it's only tentative to a very slight degree.
Mm.
What I'm given, that is the plan at this time. And what I will say, there are times when this divine plan does change in the blink of an eye, but it's
Yeah.
very, very rarely. I've seen it about 3 times since 2012 that it did change. That, I was told to go somewhere, then told very quickly to go to somewhere else. There were certain events occurring, and then boom, it would shift. And just like what you would say, the Mandela effect, because we're
Mm.
transported
Yeah. Yeah.
to a lower timeline. So this does occur as well.
So you're going to go from a parka and a woolly mammoth fur coat to a loincloth in Australia, Himalayas to the Australia outback.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
yeah.
it's pretty good here. It's keeping like, about 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit in the day, 16 to, 19,
Well, but
20
The
Celsius.
Himalayas, you're not going to be in the Himalayas. You're going to be you're going to be meeting what is it? The abdominal snowman. I was going to ask you.
That's an important area, for
Oh,
ones that are
absolutely.
interested in
Yeah,
Himalayas.
absolutely it is. Now you were talking about God, I was just going to ask you I can't remember. Slipped my mind. I was thinking about the abdominal snowman. But
Yeah.
I think where I was
Yeah.
going to go. Oh, I know where I was going to go with it. So there seems to be some people being pulled to the United States, focus on the United States, which is understandable. Being that it's kind of the centerpiece or the power center, whatever you want to call it, of the matrix or whatever you want to call it. Um, and people talking about, when it falls, because at some point the straw is going to break the camel's back somewhere. As you were saying, the higher we go, the more it causes what it causes down here. Um,
Mhm.
what do you, I mean, obviously it would seem that with what we've been prepared for, it is to give us enough strength, collectively and individually, to hold up the light, to offset the rage, the anger, the sadness, the disbelief, and all the stuff that you talked about earlier that might be caused by disclosure. Is there anything else that you can add to that? That's beyond that, focusing on the only thing that is real, the energy of love. Is there anything that you can add to that, or anything else that you see as being needed or necessary, or something we need to be cognizant of?
Well, let me say no, for the most part, again, is keeping in the highest love state at this time. But,
Mm,
also by doing that, by expressing your love and your gratitude outwards. And, I recommend that do it daily, express it
mm,
openly to others. Because also, what this does is you're expressing that outwards, it's also empowering you and keeping you in a high state. So it's remain in the loving state, but don't keep it inside, express it outward.
mm.
Now, what's occurring is, let's say that's going to be the main focus here for about 2 weeks to, indefinitely, which may be a month or so. So this is the main theme now. Everyone, get powered up to the highest extent of their love, the divine unions, and individually keep in that higher vibratory state with this. Everyone, every soul knows what they are doing. They, in the etheric realms, they have a certain idea. However, it is one of the reasons why I'm on the surface as well to coordinate things. And I do that through putting out certain updates and what have you. I would rather that I did not need to be here doing that. However, for it needs to be integrated into the material world and into these timelines. And
Yeah.
the role that each one of us plays is documented into the internet, into the reality. Also, to be, let's say, in the least, left behind for a legacy of what occurred, and writing a new book, a new guidance for
Yeah.
humanity, just to transition them into um, the higher states of being. So it's all
Yeah.
being documented and recorded, and like the fantastic work you, Todd, and so many others are doing. We are all doing the same thing, and there's so many groups of us out there, and just keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So now, as we get further into this thing, I mean, you just mentioned a period of 2 weeks or a month. Now, that's in regard to, is that in regard to the initial hit, so to speak, the initial surge or wave of disclosure that we need to stand tall and dig our heels in and hold that light up for 2 weeks to 4 weeks. Is that right?
This is what I'm getting at this time.
Okay.
Yes, Todd.
Yeah.
And then, things shift. Then we put our focus on, let's say, other areas of creation as
Yeah.
well. So the main thing is holding the high vibratory space at this time to take that first huge impact of fear off whenever. these indictments began to be
Yeah.
unsealed, because
Yeah.
it sets off a flash connection all around Gaia of all the corruption. It's a mass
Absolutely. Yeah.
revelation. It's global. And yeah, and at
It's
this
deep.
point,
Yeah.
today is Thursday. I was given last Saturday, and I believe I put it out, that it was possible on Monday it was going to be started to be released. However, there is a decision that also needs to divinely be made, and there is also we're kind of just in a waiting period. And when that decision is made, when things come together in whatever way, it sets it off. It is the divine timing. And we're just sitting here, just waiting for
Yeah.
it to begin.
So you feel like it's very, very imminent, like possibly before the end of the month. And I
Oh yeah,
realize,
yeah, indeed. Yeah,
yeah, I realize
I
not
have.
everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying I realize it's going to come in waves. I don't, and I could be wrong, but it would seem like it. But I love what you bring up, because it's been such a journey to direct all of our focus to the best of our abilities, moment by moment, not to project, not to externalize, not to look for a savior, not to look for a guru or whatever.
We are the
But
saviors, all of us. Yes.
exactly. But I think it's important to mention there's going to be a tremendous amount of contrast when these things are disclosed. In other words, you're going to see let's just call them the white hats or whatever, that brings people to justice. And then you're going to see all these other people on the other end of the spectrum who people are going to want to hang, and, and get something out of it, some type of reparation, something, justice or whatever. It's going to be important for us, I think, in this community, to hold both of those ends of the polarity in the same light, and not get drawn into, I'm a Trump supporter, I'm not a Trump supporter.
Exactly.
I'm a little bit not shocked, but I'm a little surprised by the conviction in the community of one side or the other. I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm just saying there's enough. I see enough in the news feed, which I don't scan a lot, of people, trashing Trump or people backing up Trump. Both of them too much away from the center. So I think it's important for us to remember why we're here and what the purpose of it is, and the fact that no matter what happens, we've got to hold on to what the only thing is, and that's true oneness. There is no separation. Everything
Yes.
that we're looking at and every person that we can pull up in front of us is us, no matter who it is.
Indeed, it's the divine plan. We're all informed of that. We know what's going on. And as you say, Trump is playing a major role. And,
Mhm.
just for full disclosure on my thoughts about that, is that, I see Trump do things that no, it's got to change, like the Mexican wall, these sort of
Mhm.
things. I saw the other day, maybe opening up some mining. No, these things are not going to be part of the 5D. So you're going to see very quickly a Trump transition, if not something else occurs with the galactics. And Trump
Yeah,
is the last president that there will be of the US. I'm not giving all the specific
I
details.
that
Yeah.
feels that feels right.
Yeah, there's going to
That
be a big can of worms opened, a can
yeah,
of worms in the respect that there's going to be many levels of perspective. Yes,
yeah.
and we need to keep the level head and keep up above it all, and tweak perhaps where we can, and hold the space and transmute the
Well,
energy.
well, I think another thing that's interesting, that you bring to mind, and I know you cited this. There's a fairly new YouTube channel that has 10 videos on it, and I believe it's called something Cabal, like defeat the
Yeah,
Cabal, or
yeah,
or something like that, end of the Cabal. And the lady is from the Netherlands and does an excellent job, really, of putting everything together in what, even though it's 10 episodes, which is really not a lot of airtime. And what I'm getting at is, when we think of disclosure, we think of, the child trafficking and all those things that go along with it, the whole deep state and all that. But the other part of it that I don't know that we think about as much is if that part of it's going to be disclosed, I think there's going to be equal measures of what's behind the Trumps, what's behind the countries, you know, because in that series, she brings up reptilians. Otherwise it's a fairly conventional, typical, not too far out there conspiracy. I mean, it's factual, but
Yeah.
she actually brings up reptilians, which tells me that there's a very strong chance, just as likely, and it would only make sense that with each dose of the crap, we get a dose of the higher, the higher presence or the higher help or assistance, or you know what I mean?
Well, indeed, I did not watch fully all of those. I believe I watched number 10 and I was very impressed with it. However, yes, that reptilian aspect is a very real thing, as most of us know it. And to how much it will be, the divine information I'm given on it is that for any of the facets of the reptilian, they have surrendered.
Yeah.
So there may be some evidence towards that if it needs to be. It could be two different things. It could be the public still not knowing that there is such thing as reptilians going
Yeah.
forward, and there could be us, getting more information on it. However, what I tend to do is to we know we're on our way, we're ascending back to source, so we can also keep rising above all of these beliefs. So we
Yeah.
observe from the neutral point of where we're at any given time, but we also know where we're going into the higher dimensions where there is nothing, let's say, what you would call bad or negative or dark, nothing like that exists for reptilians and other nefarious aliens, if you will. They exist here in the lower dimensions, and we're no longer restricted to that as
Yeah.
with the ascension.
Yeah, I think it's, and again, if you go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi, both came out in around 47 or 48, which is also when Roswell occurred, which is, divine timing, right? It all came out at once. But the basically we were entrenched in the third dimension, and the fourth dimension, had the astral had a certain power over us through distortion and that type of thing. But we've gone beyond that, and I think that's another way metaphorically to explain the lack of the lack of threat, if you will, or the lack of presence of what you're referring to. What I was getting at too was that, to me, again, it's not just the sensational, fantastic, truth is stranger than fiction stuff that's going to come out. It's also the other side of it. Who's been supporting this? Who's, maybe they have more of a presence, and maybe in terms of communication or apparitions or whatever the case is, or technology or whatever the case is. Because if you look back at history, if you look back at it, like some of the stuff that Robert Sepper does, the anthropologist, with Atlantean Gardens, there are times in history, and I believe the Sumerians were one of them, where there's an injection of technology, fire, tools. There's an uptick. The pyramids. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot,
just
and I can't.
appears, yeah,
Yeah, and I
instant.
and I could see that where that would happen now,
Mhm.
because again, there's just as much shock coming from what we don't want to believe is going on to something as our universal family coming in and having a more prominent presence to the five senses. I mean, so I mean, it's going to be both sides. I think I would imagine it would be.
Yeah, it can be like we're in the times of the revelations, and yes, everything that needs to be revealed will be to advance everyone, every soul with us. So
Yeah.
totally. And, again, with the technologies that is here and that can be implemented upon the surface at any given time. And you could say it's a future shock, which it
Yeah.
will do. And
Yeah.
yeah, all of this is very, very possible, and also will very plausible, and will play a role here in the very near futures. I'm not given when it does occur, but let me say, I'd love to have it right now. It'd be great.
Oh, I think it'll be here sooner than later. We got 111 people in the house, so
Mhm.
that's some synchronicity alignment right there.
Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful number. Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Um, yeah, and God, I was going to ask you one more thing. I can't remember now. Again, what it is. This
Well,
is
it's
a.
important with each one here now. I wish to emphasize the importance of this because of your manifestation abilities as the co-creators and your creator abilities. It's very important to keep training the mind away from the negative thoughts, away from the chatter, away from lesser beliefs that will distract you from your journey back towards creator. Focus
Yeah,
on that. That's what empowers you the most, but you need to be very meticulous with your thoughts. Any negative thoughts, turn them to positive, get them
yeah,
out of there, because you are now having more of an impact on your immediate reality, but it also ripples outward, and you will
that's
begin
right.
to see signs of what you're creating for yourself, because your power is beyond anything in this realm that it has ever been to this degree. There has been certain individuals throughout the written history, but we are in unprecedented times where we have millions that have this capacity of power, and it needs to be discipline, great discipline, and it's a great responsibility that comes with it. And it's with the consciousness and with the mind when you're transitioning out of the old human ways to your divine authority. You need to
Here, here.
keep the negativity out of there.
Yeah, here, here. Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about that earlier today on one of the shows.
Oh,
It's
great.
it's
Good.
it's funny how yeah, it's funny how we have all this connectivity up here. As we've all
Mm-hmm.
evolved, and we come back to simply being conscious as much as we can, moment by moment, and being the captain of our own ship. Basically, I was saying this morning that it doesn't mean that I don't have a negative thought, and it doesn't mean that I might not even say something, sarcastic or negative, but I now have the ability, and I'm okay with it, not to condemn myself, or, and just to say, you know what, Alt delete, boom, that's out. It's okay, and it's getting lesser and lesser. And I got to believe this is what you're talking about, and more people, like you said, millions of people are actually doing this, and it just seems so basic, so human, and so boring compared to all the other stuff that we pull in. But it's actually the most powerful thing we can do, because like you said, not only does it affect our individual universe, but it affects everyone
The
else's.
others,
Yeah. It
exactly. And
affects,
it's so important. Yes. So, we create the solutions. If you get a negative thought, just reconcile it to the positive and
yeah,
put it out there. Indeed. And, that's part of a transmutation process for the
yeah,
masses as well, that expedites the overall ascension. So, yeah, just keep applying the remedy within the consciousness, and it does get picked up by the masses.
absolutely.
Though that someone may not be awake, and they'll have a eureka moment with a solution to the problem, but it's been the light communities, the collective community, that has influenced that spark.
That's right. Yeah. Stick it in the collective chamber of the heart and transform it, because you're
Yeah,
not going to
yeah,
get rid
yeah.
of it.
Keep
It's
it
still,
positive and keep the
yeah.
love, brother. This is the real times. The love
Man,
is it.
yeah, I want to tell you something. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, and just kind of just put it out there. You know, more and more people are stepping up, and this is again not the glitzy, fantastic, divine, episodic type of connections we have with the multidimensionality and all that. But it is the most powerful thing we can do. We're all stepping up now. We're integrating the physical and the non-physical. We're integrating our voice and our actions and our words and our thoughts, and with all the multidimensionality, the body,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and understand that a lot of people have done it. They've taken a lot of hits. People have been talked about. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, indeed.
I
Yeah.
know
But
what I'm
we
talking.
persevere. We know
That's
the truth.
that's right. And that's just one thing I want to say, both as a compliment to you, because it is a great example, and as encouragement for everybody else. The truth prevails. And I'm looking at a brother I've known for a couple of years. We've done many, many shows. And the one thing that really stands out about you is your fortitude and your conviction. There is no arguing, there is no debate. You do what you do, you say what you say, you do the best you can, you don't take anything personal, and you do your work. And you can't take that away from anybody. In fact, that is the faithful, trustful energy of love, and service to self, service to the collective. So thank you for doing that. It's always a pleasure. And I would just encourage everybody to step up, grab a mic, start typing, grab a pen, make some art, create a gathering, do something that from your heart makes you smile, because it's all the same energy. And that energy is what we are, which is happiness, joy, bliss, creativity, creation, and all those things that go with it. Yeah. So
Indeed.
I have a feeling that we'll see each other late this year. For some
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
I don't know. At
See
some
what
point I'm
occurs.
going to get to Australia. Could be there, could be here. I don't know. But uh,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you, brother, and thank you for all the work you do. I look forward to the next time we can get together. And best to you and Sharon and everybody else on your team, man.
Well, I
Peace.
thank you so much, brother, for the compliments. And, I have great respect and gratitude and just so impressed with your contributions to this as well. And much love to you, brother, all the viewers, all of us, and let's keep doing it. Woo!
There you go. Right on, man. Take care, brother.